Risale Noor, inshallah. So I will go ahead and ask Dr. Yamina to get us started. Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Inshallah, everyone is doing well. Tesnia, could you please record just in case, inshallah? I'm having some issues with Zoom, so.
Yes, inshallah.
Thank you. Thank you. So we are carrying on with the 23rd word. And this is the second chapter and the end of the fourth remark. And if you may remember, this 23rd word is reflections from the author, Imam Badi'u Zaman Sa'id Nursi rahimahullah, and reflection on this passage from the Quran where we are told, indeed, we have created man on the most excellent of patterns, fi ahsan taqweem. Then we sent him down to the lowest of the low, except those who believe and do good deeds. And the whole, what we've been through, we actually read, I think, the first chapter some time ago, and now we started from the second chapter. It's all reflections about what this passage means, what is it pointing to, and how can we witness and testify and confirm the reality, the truth of this passage, that truly human being is created in this best of patterns with so many abilities, yet if they are not used for the purpose of their creation, then he can fall to the lowest of the low, being more miserable than any other creature. And so this in itself, when we read this passage in the Quran, we need to pause and stop. Usually we read for the sake of reading, for the sake of finishing a certain juz or certain parts of the Quran, but primarily the Quran is the message, is God speaking to us, it is guidance. And so when we read or listen, we are also supposed to reflect. This is something that we've been talking about for many years, and that's why we're actually reading from the tafsir, because before we were reading directly from the different surahs, different chapters of the Quran, and I always felt the need for myself and also for everyone else to emphasize what we are doing. Like, for instance, if we come across this passage, how can we move? I mean, personally, how can I carry on? I'm being told that you've been created on the best of patterns, but then you are potentially sent down to the lowest of the low. If we are really present with what we are hearing, we should be not able to carry on. Like, what's going on? I don't want to reach the lowest of the low. So what can I do? And the next ayah says, except those who believe and do good deeds. So how do I believe? How do I do good deeds? And is this true anyways? Because I may say, okay, but next day, it won't have an impact on me anymore because I have not really witnessed, experienced the reality, the truth of this passage, of this guidance. And so what we are doing here from the first remark to the fourth is following the author, Imam Badi'uzzaman, rahimahullah, in his reflection, in his tadabbur, in his tafakkur of this passage of the Quran. Of course, not only this passage, and he is of course using other parts of the Quran as they also shed light on each other and explain each other. So what we are following now is a sample of tadabbur and tafakkur of the ayat of the Quran, as we are told in the Quran, you know, reflect. So inshallah, we stopped at the last part of the fourth remark, but I think we can just reread the fourth remark from the beginning, and that would also be a way to refresh our memories, inshallah. So maybe someone can.
Inshallah, I can read.
Thank you.
So we're starting from the beginning of the fourth remark, right?
Inshallah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Man resembles a delicate and petted child in the universe. There is a great strength in his weakness and great power in his impotence. For it is through the strength of his weakness and power of his impotence that beings have been subjected to him. If man understands his weakness and offers supplications verbally and by state and conduct, and recognizes his impotence and seeks help, since he has offered thanks by exhibiting them, he achieves his aim and his desires are subjugated to him in a way far exceeding what he could achieve with his own power. Only, he sometimes wrongly attributes to his own power the attainment of a wish that has been obtained for him through the supplications offered by the tongue of his disposition. For example, the strength in the weakness of a chick causes the mother hen to attack a lion, and its newly born lion cub subjugates to itself the savage and hungry lioness, leaving the mother hungry and the cub full. See this strength in weakness and manifestation of divine mercy, which are worthy of notice. Just as through crying or asking or looking unhappy, a child subjugates the strong to himself and is so successful in getting what he wants that he could not obtain 1,000th of it with 1,000 times his own strength. That is to say, since weakness and impotence excite compassion and a sense of protection towards him, the child can subjugate heroes to himself with his tiny finger. Now, should such a child with foolish conceit deny the compassion and accuse the protection, saying, I subjugate these with my own strength, of course he'll receive a slap. In the same way, if, like Qarun, man says, I have been given it on account of the knowledge I have. That is, I gained this through my own knowledge and my own power in a way that demonstrates ingratitude and denies his creator's mercy and accuses his wisdom. He will, of course, deserve a punishing blow. This means that man's domination and human advances and the attainments of civilizations which are to be observed have been made subject to him, not through his attracting them or conquering them or through combat, but due to his weakness. He has been assisted because of his impotence. They have been bestowed on him due to his indigence. He has been inspired with them due to his ignorance. They have been given him due to his need, and the reason for his domination is not strength and the power of knowledge, but the compassion and clemency of the sustainer and divine mercy and wisdom. They have subjugated things to him. Yes, what clothes man, who is defeated by vermin like eyeless scorpions and legless snakes in silk from a tiny worm and feeds him honey from a poisonous insect, is not from his own power, but the subjugation of the sustainer and the bestowal of the most merciful, which are the fruits of his weakness. O man, since the reality of the matter is thus, give up egotism and arrogance. With the tongue of seeking help, proclaim your impotence and weakness at the divine court, and with the tongue of entreaty and supplication, your poverty and need. Show that you are his slave. Say, God is enough for us, for he is the best disposer of affairs, and rise in degree. And do not say, I am nothing. What importance do I have that the universe should purposely be made subject to me by an absolutely all-wise one and universal thanks required of me? Because for sure you are as though nothing with respect to your soul and form, but from the point of view of duty and rank, you are an observant spectator of this majestic universe, an eloquent, articulate tongue of these beings so full of wisdom, a discerning reader of this book of the universe, a supervisor of these creatures, full of wonder at their glorifications, and like a foreman of these beings, full of respect for their worship. Yes, O man, in regards to your vegetable physical being and animal soul, you are a deaf particle, a contemptible atom, a needy creature, a weak animal who tossed on the awesome waves of the flood of beings is departing. But being perfected through the light of belief, which comprises the radiance of divine love, and through the training of Islam, which is enlightened in regard to humanity and servitude to God, you are a king and a universal within particularity, and within your insignificance, a world, and within your contemptibility, a supervisor of such high rank and extensive sphere that you can say, my compassionate sustainer has made the world a house for me, the sun and moon lamps for it, and the spring a bunch of flowers for me, and summer a table of bounties, and the animals he has made my servants, and he has made the plants the decorated furnishings of my house. To conclude, if you heed Satan in your soul, you will fall to the lowest of the low. But if you heed truth and the Quran, you will rise to the highest of the high and become the most excellent pattern of the universe.
Thank you, Tisnia. So that's the part where we had stopped, and also do not say. But just before that, when he's saying, do not be arrogant, where was that? And he's saying the reason for the human domination is not strength and the power of knowledge, but the compassion and clemency of the sustainer and divine mercy and wisdom. This is Iman. So he's saying they have been subjugated to you. Since the reality of the matter is thus, give up egotism and arrogance. And egotism and arrogance exist within us to the extent that we forget, either we don't know at all, or we are acquainted with God as our Rabb, our sustainer, but we forget. And in some aspect, maybe we're not even aware. We never reached that awareness of who our Rabb is. And that's why in those areas, there is arrogance. Here, arrogance is the delusion that we are doing something. And in those areas, our relationship with ourselves and with the world is all conceited. It's all an illusion. It's all based on seemingly horizontal relationships that in reality don't exist. in reality, everything is being done. And it seems so because we never questioned anything. So when in the beginning of in the text in the Quran, that passage, when we are told إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, and عَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ is also part of this, but it comes first with Iman. Without Iman, whatever we do won't be Amal al-Salih, because it will be, even if it is good, it is done in my name, because I don't know who God is. So that they believe and do good deeds, the belief there, when we just read without reflecting, we assume that it means that, yes, I believe in God. And actually, more often, we mean that we are not denying the existence of God. Because to believe in God, it means to know God, to know him as he describes himself in the Quran, with his qualities, with his beautiful names. There is only one way, is to witness. That's why the Shahada is so central in Islam. And if I have not done the work of witnessing, it has to be done daily. Allah is creating daily. Then how do I know who God is? And here, this knowing is a witnessing, and is an experience of who he is. So that all this part is talking about who we are. And as I had mentioned at the beginning of this fourth remark, is the reality of taskhir, the reality, the fact that everything is being subjugated to us. And then we talked about the mystery of our weakness and powerlessness and our needs, and how they are the key to the source of attracting divine mercy and power, and the fact that everything is being subjugated to us. Whereas when we are not aware of this, it feels like we are doing things. Even if it is a prayer, we feel like my prayer is powerful. Astaghfirullah. And so what happens when we are unaware of this mystery, the mystery of everything being subjugated to us, not because of some power or something that we have, but just the opposite, because we have nothing, because we have no power, because we have so many needs. And it is pure divine compassion and blessing. And so when we are unaware of this, our powerlessness, our needs, they don't feel like something good, because we are not aware that they are the keys to connect with, actually, even to connect with the rest of the world, the rest of being, as well as to the source of all goodness, the source of all what we need and long for. We're unaware of that. So when we remember, when we are reminded of our weakness, we mostly feel worthless, maybe even helpless, hopeless. And then usually, because it doesn't feel good, then we want to keep ourselves busy, because we fear if we slow down, we will again remember our existential situation, which seems to be very scary. It's a reality that we are weak and powerless, but because we have not reflected on its true meaning, then it's scary. It's scary to be in this fleeting, impermanent world, and there is nothing permanent to hold on to. So it feels like there is nothing, nowhere, no place we belong to, nothing to be grounded, nothing stable. Because when we are in this state, wherever we turn, it's just impermanence, fleeting, everything. And remember, where was it, in the third remark? We were saying how all this impermanence inflicts wounds on us, onto our soul, our being, our emotions. So there is no grounding, no belonging, no inner peace, only fear and anxiety. I don't know if you remember in the third remark, it talks about being in a train, in a tunnel, and the train represents time passing very quickly. And it's traveling, the train is traveling very fast. And he sees all this attractive flowers and fruits and pretty things, and he wants to grab them. But when he stretches out his hand and tries to pick them up, they were covered in thorns, and so they tore. His hands were torn and wounded at being parted from them, because by the time you want to catch them, the train is already gone. And this is how life is in fact. So here the question comes from that state of being. I am nothing. What importance do I have that the universe should purposely be, or purposefully be, made subject to me by an absolutely all-wise one, and universal thanks required of me? Does anyone want to share anything about how this question makes you feel? Anyway, if you want to, please go ahead and share. But I feel it's a very sensitive point. If I can't appreciate how the whole creation has been given to us and made subject to us, actually, each one of us can say it has been subject to me, then how can we feel the need to offer comprehensive thanks? And usually we don't feel like overwhelmed with gratitude because we take everything for granted. I mean, we may be moved with small gifts, as long as it has my name on it, it came to me, then I see it as something to be grateful for. But we remain generally oblivious of the fact that the whole creation, the whole world, the sun, the seasons, everything is made beneficial to us to serve our needs, not only our physical needs, but they are also created to guide us to fulfill our purpose in this life and prepare for eternal life. So when you see it with that dimension, it's actually, we're missing so much. We're totally blind to a very important chunk of reality. And so we suffer from this state, not only as far as our spiritual life is concerned, our eternal future is concerned, but also from the worldly aspect, because then we remain prisoners of our physical aspect, which is in fact merely the tip of the iceberg of who human being is, especially as a special creation of God, as ahsan taqweem, the most excellent of patterns, that doesn't exist in our perception of ourselves and of others. And so no wonder we feel so miserable, because this false perception contradicts our reality, our longing, our true potential, our true longing for eternal life. And so all this is incumbent on being aware of the reality of subjugation, taskhir, and appreciating it. If we are aware of it, then appreciation will come with it. And that only can heal our fears and our anxieties, because now we are aware that we have a merciful, powerful sustainer taking care of us. And the result is humility and dignity and gratitude. But also the question made me feel like as if let me look again at the wordings. What was where was the text? Sorry. Oh, and do not say, I am nothing. So he's saying, do not say, but we are saying, I am nothing. What importance do I have that the universe should purposely be made subject to me? So this it seems like I'm trying to put myself in that situation, like reflect on, just pause and reflect on the reality of taskhir, of subjugation. Everything is being subjected to you for your life, for you to exist, to continue your life. And part of me feels like it seems like almost unbelievable. And when I ask myself why, maybe because of self-perception, because already if I am in a perception of feeling separate and independent of my Rabb, so I am also separate from the rest of the world. So I don't see how they are being subjugated to me. And so I ask myself, how do I go back to reality? Because the reality is it's not true that I'm separate and independent of my Rabb. Because the reality is that we have needs and we are powerless. We can't take care of our needs. And remember, the third remark was that our needs, my need for water, my need for air, all those things, I cannot produce them, and nothing can produce them except the one who has the power to control the whole creation, the whole universe. So the wake-up call comes back to our inner reality, our needs and powerlessness. And that's what usually we run away from. But if we learn to stay with our needs and powerlessness and accept this reality and reflect on its meaning, then that's when the breakthrough is going to happen. That's when we wake up to this reality. And that's when we can witness how we are being taken care of. We can witness rububiyah. And that's when we will be filled with appreciation and awe, and we can just go into prostration. And one example that we've been giving all the time is and for me it's very easy to access and to experience and therefore witness, is breathing. I have no control over my breathing. And of course, breathing is you start just breathing and just pause and reflect, just observe, just witness the process of breathing. And we will become aware that I have absolutely no control over my breathing. And I have no control over my lungs, my respiratory system, over my body, how things are happening. I don't know what's happening and I can't control it. And I can't control my life.
Dr. Yamina, I wanted to share a comment. So like, I think kind of as you're explaining this, like what I'm feeling is that like, if I like, you know, like I've been made so needy and so powerless and like, you know, and everything, like everything is, you know, being taken care of for me. So like, so there's that aspect that, you know, I'm being told, you know, to witness. So it kind of like almost is like it's like the question that he asked, like, what importance do I have? Like, I kind of feel the same way where it's like, okay, so if I'm so needy and powerless, like I can't be that important. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's why I started there, because I'm coming there, like, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I'm just like, okay, if someone's so needy and powerless, like how can that being be so important? I guess is like where I'm kind of stuck.
Yeah, inshallah. So here, what I'm talking about is when I start experiencing and witnessing that I have no control, no power over my breathing, over my life, then that's when I can witness that there is a power, something, someone is taking care of my breathing and filling me with life. He is in control of my life. And I have no power over the air. And yet, air is being subjugated to me. It's coming in very easily, no hardship, nothing. I don't have to do anything. It's coming to me. I don't even have to go and look for it. Subhanallah. So I start, that's the witnessing. That's when I can say that there is no deity, nothing worth worshiping except God. There is no source of power except God, no source of life except God, no source of control except God. That's the Shahada. And now this, what is important here, I feel personally, is that it's not something to understand and grasp intellectually, because that's how we are being trained, and that's how the ego also wants to say, okay, where is the relationship between being very weak and powerless and subjugation? I don't see a relationship between the two. But that's why we are asked to witness. We are not asked to grasp it and rationally understand it. Because intellectually, rationally, we cannot fathom it. We cannot grasp it. It's a lived reality. It can only be experienced and witnessed. And one example would be, for instance, the connection between a seed and a plant, let's say a tree, or a flower, a tree. So there is no rational justification, and there is nothing in the seed that necessitates the existence of the tree. There is no necessary rational relationship between the two. So if we did not witness a tree coming after the seed many, many times, we would never be able to say, oh, see, look at the seed and say, oh, a tree will come from here. Most of life is like this. We just never stop and reflect. We don't see the miracles, the ayat. So after seeing a tree coming after a seed many, many times, and then we see the seed and say, oh, yes, this is, if you plant it, you will get a tree. Yes, but this is just because you witnessed it. There is nothing in the seed that requires the tree. The tree does not proceed from the seed and cannot proceed. The seed cannot make a tree. This is the very basis of Tawheed, the basis, therefore, of Iman, the basis of reading the ayat in the creation. And if we don't question the relationship between, in this case, the seed and the tree, the so-called cause and the so-called effect, if we are still stuck in a seemingly illusory horizontal relationship between the two, between the cause and the effect, the so-called cause and effect, then we cannot see the divine intervention, the divine creation, the rububiyyah in that event. And so it feels like I understood it, but actually there is nothing to understand. It's all about witnessing, and the witnessing is about living it, experiencing it. That's the only way we can, we operate in the world. We start reasoning afterwards. We start reasoning about the relationship between the tree and the seed after we witness this. Then that reasoning will lead us to find what is the relationship. Since the tree, the seed has no way to make a tree, there is no way the tree is related to this seed, yet one is coming after the other. Therefore, someone is creating them in this order in order to show his will, his many different attributes and names. And so our weakness also is like the seed. It's not like, oh, my weakness, and there is subjugation. So it feels like I don't understand the subjugation. We don't need to understand. We need to witness it, to reflect. The reflection is needed for the La ilaha part of the Shahada. It means it's not me who is doing it. I am not the one doing the breathing. My body doesn't know how to breathe. I have no control. The body, in order to be able to move even, needs life. And my body does not have control over life. So when we do the first part, the reflection part, which is the just witnessing, just stay there and experience and watch and observe carefully, we will see that there is no way I am doing the breathing, La ilaha, then the illallah will come. The one, only the one who has control over all creatures, over the air, over life, he alone can be the one in control of my life and of my breathing, illallah. And this is something that's going to we need to practice in everything. We need to practice the shahada. And so then we won't ask a question like, what importance do I have that the universe should purposefully be made subject to me? I witness that the universe is being subject to me. This body, the air, the lungs, everything is being made subject to me. Now I'm already filled with awe, with gratitude. So it's not about an importance. It's not because I have importance, as if this is what is. And then universal thanks required to me. I will feel the need to show gratitude. When I witness that. And maybe, well, let me start from the beginning. From the beginning, what we've been reading, we are learning about a different mode of being. There is basically in the very beginning, we saw that there are two modes of being. One is being unaware of our connection to our creator, our sustainer. And when we are unaware, everything seems to be happening horizontally, as if the seed is making the tree, the water is giving life, air, I am breathing, and air is contributing to my life. And we're not even questioning anything. So there is no witnessing in the first mode of being. And we can call that living from the ego. And we identify with our physical entity. And practically, it's easy to find out where we are, because when we are in this mode of being, we are focused on our physical and basic emotional needs, like animal emotional needs. I'm happy, angry, unhappy, but nothing to do with akhirah, nothing to do with our true purpose in life. And so everything remains there, horizontal, stuck to the fleeting world. For instance, I'm thirsty, I drink water, thirst is gone, that's it. I don't even think about it. Water quenches my thirst. And when we go to school, it becomes even worse than that. They tell us, no, water does not only quench your thirst, it keeps your body hydrated, it allows your cells, your joint, your organs to work properly. It becomes like a big god. Water regulates your body temperature, whatever, and all that. And we never question, how can water do this? It does not even come to our mind. That's why we need divine guidance. In divine guidance, we are told, is this even possible? So when we start listening to divine guidance and we start questioning this and we realize it's impossible, I can't do it. How can water, lifeless water, do it? So we start living from the soul, not the soul as it's used here as ego, but the soul, the spirit, the ruh. We start questioning the previous perception of the world and of ourselves. And then it becomes so clear that, for instance, blind, deaf, unconscious water does not possess any quality that would be needed to achieve these tasks. Has no power, has no knowledge, has no wisdom, no planning, no life. So we say, La ilaha. This cannot be a God. Illallah, except the one who is behind all this achievement. This one can only be one, or the one who has all-encompassing power, knowledge, wisdom, planning, control, and we say that is God, as we are told in the Quran. ذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ خَالِقُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ فَاعْبُدُوهُ وَعَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ وَكِيلٌ. That is God, your sustainer, your Rabb. There is nothing worth worshiping except Him, the creator of all things. So worship Him alone. He is وَعَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدْ وَكِيلٌ. He is in charge, He's in control of everything. So when we remain unaware of God as our Rabb here and now, either because we never truly reflected on this possibility, or because we keep forgetting for whatever reasons, but for most people, I'm talking about Muslims, it's the first one. We never truly reflected on the possibility. As Muslims, yes, we say God is powerful over all things. He is all-knowing, but we didn't do the witnessing. It's not part of our shahada. The shahada is something that we say with words, is not something that we practice, usually. And then most of the time it feels like we're purely physical beings, and we feel weak and insignificant creatures in a strange, impermanent world. And from one aspect that is true, that's what he's saying. Yes, from the aspect of your physical being, you are an insignificant being. So, but if we have not, how do you say, activated the witness within us, the believer within us, then we are this insignificant being, and we have not activated the potential to witness that everything is being subjugated to us. And so we are in that state, unable to fulfill that universal gratitude and thanks, because we just don't see it, we don't feel it, we don't experience it. You can repeat it. We read it in the Quran. He says He created everything for you, again and again in the Quran, but we just read it and pass. What does it mean? You have created everything for me. It doesn't feel like this for me at all. There are so many things I want and I don't have them. Who cares if the sun is created for me? It feels. Of course, if the sun is not there, I won't even be here talking about anything. There will be no me in my limited understanding. So we have full of contradictions when we are not fulfilling that potential, when we have not activated it. And when it becomes activated, then we don't ask that question, because our importance doesn't come from our physical being, but from our connection to our Rabb. As the divine addressee, as the guest of this divine host, our importance comes from there. And when we become aware of that relationship, that connection, then we don't ask this question, I feel. So that's why he's saying, like, it's true. We are indeed, like we are told in the Quran, we are made of matter, decaying, fleeting matter. As we're told in the Quran, we're made of clay in Surah Al-An'am, Surah 6, from the beginning. The first and second ayah, we're told, praise belong to God, Alhamdulillah, who has created the heavens and the earth and has made darkness and light, yet the disbelievers set up equals to their Rabb, to their Lord, because they are not aware of God. So how do we set up equals? Everything. When in my perception, when God is not active, I don't see Wajh Allah, God's countenance in everything. I don't see things as signs glorifying God, speaking of him, witnessing to his beautiful names. Then by default, things are happening on their own. Then they are God themselves. They are creators themselves. And the second ayah, the next ayah, it is he who has created you from clay. So it starts from clay, but we are made of clay. Our physical body is just matter. And we often forget that the clay is being created. So when Allah is saying we have created from clay, we forget, because when we don't have that connection with God, when we have not performed the shahada, experienced the shahada, we say, oh, I am unimportant clay. So what importance do I have? Yeah, but he's saying we have created you. So there is the created, there is a connection with God being created here and now. And that clay is filled with life and filled with all kinds of miraculous senses and abilities. And yet the subjugation is already, we are living it, we are benefiting from it, but because when I take it for granted, then I can't fathom how miraculous it is. So it's not about how come, for what reason, as if I have to understand it. It's already happening. I'm already benefiting from it. When I'm seeing, when I am speaking, when I'm understanding, when I have this consciousness that I'm awareness, all these things are miraculous and are part of the reality of taskhir, of everything being subjugated to me. But because I see them as mine, then I'm saying, okay, all this is mine. Why is Allah, why would he give me all this, subjugate everything to me? If I start by recognizing that these things are not mine, they are already the subjugation, being subjugated, I would be so overwhelmed with awe, with gratitude, or just be in prostration that that's it. This is the reality. There is nothing to understand, rationalize, to understand rationally. It's like, how do I understand the relationship between a seed and a tree? How can a tree come from a seed? A seed is a tiny little thing. Allah has decided to make the tree come after the seed. That's all. It's in my own illusion, my own false perception that attributed the tree to the seed, and that now is questioning how come, for instance. And so we see in the Quran, for instance, in Surah Sajda, Surah 32, we are told, ayah 7 to 9, God, who gave everything its perfect form, he first created man from clay, then he made his descendants, the descendants of man, from an extract of underrated fluid. Then he molded him, and then he breathed from his own spirit into him, into man. God breathed of his spirit into man. He gave you, and then he gave you hearing, sight, and minds. How seldom you are grateful. So we are these beings that have no importance, but we are already created في أحسن تقويم. We are created out of clay, but this clay, what makes it so precious is the spirit that is breathed into God, the spirit that's coming from God, that recognizes God, that recognizes all his names, because we are taught all his names. And we are given hearing and sight and minds. And that's why we are told in the Quran, if you look at Ayah, Surah 38, for instance, from 71 to 76, your sustainer said to the angels, I will create a man from clay. When I have shaped him and breathed from my spirit into him. So it's not only the clay. The question is coming from a self-perception that is limited to the clay. And everything else, yes, like there is hearing and sight, but this hearing and sight is not used for the purpose of their creation. It's not used to connect to alam al-ghaib, to the unseen, to read the signs and listen to the messages, the divine speech. And so they don't feel very precious to us. And so that aspect of us, that identity, because we don't have access to it, then it seems like we're stuck to the weakness and the powerlessness. And it feels like, how can weakness and powerlessness be linked with this endless subjugation and endless blessings? But if we connect with our true reality, which is all this seeing, this hearing, this as miracles, and use them for, when we realize they are miracles, they are being sustained within us. They are not mine. I cannot use it as I want. And when I use it as what I want in for fleeting matters, it is not satisfying, because we have been given this longing for everlastingness, for permanence. And so the question will transform. We won't ask a question like that anymore. So he says, your sustainer said to the angels, are we clear? Create a man from clay. When I have shaped him and breathed from my spirit into him, fall down in prostration before him. Thereupon the angels prostrated themselves, all of them together, except Iblis, who was too arrogant. He became a disbeliever. God said, Iblis, what prevents you from prostrating to that which I have created with my own hands? Are you too arrogant and mighty? Iblis said, I am better than him. You have created me from fire, while you have created him from clay. And we have discussed this passage before. Can you see how what Satan is doing is ignoring the most important thing, which is the breathing of God's spirit within this creature, this creation. And he's focusing only on the clay and saying, even then, it doesn't make sense. Who gets to decide that fire is better? But it's not about fire versus clay, because what makes human being who he is, the divine addressee, is not the clay, but the breathing of the divine spirit within him. And when at the end he says, don't follow, if you heed Satan, and when we heed Satan is when we start identifying ourselves with the clay, with the physical being only, and we forget about the most important thing, which is the ruh within us, which is coming directly from God and is seeking and longing for him, and can only find grounding and find peace and find that feeling of belonging with him, with its Rabb, with God. And if you remember, in the first remark, there was mention of the teachings of the names. What makes us special, not only those unimportant thing, as he's saying here, you are this observant, you can observe, you are the divine addressee, you are the special VIP guest, because we are created with this ability to recognize and read and recognize and acknowledge and be aware of the names. We have been given this ability because the divine God has breathed from his ruh within us. So we recognize all his divine names. This is something that we cannot just cogitate and understand intellectually. It's something that needs reflection, that needs meditation, that needs to just pause and witness and observe and experience and taste. So in Surah Al-Baqarah, in the second surah in the Quran, starting from ayah 29, again we are told, it is he who has created all that is on the earth for you. It is God who has created all that is on the earth for you. Then he turned to the sky and made the 7 heavens, and it is he, God, who has knowledge of all things. When your sustainer, but here your is not plural your. In English it's not clear. In Arabic it's with qala rabbuka, and thou sustainer, it's thou, you singular person. When thou sustainer told the angels, I am putting a successor on earth. So that creation from clay is a successor on earth, representing God on earth. So there is this aspect of us. There is an aspect of us that is just like any other animal, actually weaker, if you remember in the third remark, weaker than other animals in many ways. We are so fragile, we are so weak, and if we identify with this aspect only, then we ask that question. But we have these other aspects that can be activated through following the guidance of the Quran, that will be activated when belief, iman, start entering our hearts. And we start identifying as abd, as the beneficiary of divine rububiyyah here and now, and we become aware of this potential of being the divine addressee, of being the successor, the representative of God on earth, and that all kinds of attributes that we appreciate are actually from him, and so they becomes a means to get to know him better, rather than means to boast and claim achievements for ourselves, stealing from God's property actually. So when we start identifying with the ruh, with the second aspect, when this second aspect, our true aspect, which is like an iceberg compared to the other one, then that's ahsan taqweem. Then that's where, and here there is utter humility, but there is also dignity. There is no arrogance. Arrogance is false, like istikbar. Istakbara in Arabic is to show yourself bigger than you truly are. Or ghurur is self-deception. All have a meaning of arrogance, deceiving ourselves. So there is no arrogance, there is no false pride. There is also only the dignity of being abd. Everything is subjugated to me. I prostrate to only one. So in this passage in the Quran, it says it is God who has created all that is on earth for you. Then he turned to the sky and made the 7 heavens, and it is he, God, who has knowledge of all things. When thou, sustainer, told the angels, I am putting a successor on earth, they said, how can you put someone there who will cause damage and bloodshed when we celebrate your praise and proclaim your holiness? But he said, I know things you do not. And he taught Adam the names. So 2 things. Anytime there is the angels are asked to prostrate before Adam, before human being, is either God has breathed of his spirit or he taught the names. These 2 things are related, and this is what makes human being superior to angels in ability and deserving of, well, in a way we can say deserving of their prostration, but in another way, like we saw in the first remark, their prostrating is also an indication that everything is being subjugated to us. All the angels are prostrating to us, potentially means subjugated to us. And he taught Adam the names, all of them. Then he laid them before the angels and said, tell me the names of these if you are truthful. They said, the angels said, the famous Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. May you be glorified, or glory be unto you. We have no knowledge except what you have taught us. You are all-knowing, all-wise. Then God said, Adam, tell them the names of these. When he told them their names, God said, did I not tell you that I know what is hidden in the heavens and the earth, and that I know what you reveal and what you conceal? When we told the angels prostrate before Adam, they all prostrated except Iblis, who refused and was arrogant. He was one of the disbelievers. So here Iblis is not necessarily something out there, but it's also represents a potential within us. When we remain unaware that we've been endowed with this huge potential, and we are not activating it, we are not using it for the purpose of its creation, and therefore we're wasting it because I'm doing lots of work. It's all multiplied by 0. It's all done in the name of fleetingness, impermanence for the worldly. As long as it's not connected to God, to the source of everlastingness and permanence, there is no future, nothing. It's all being wasted. And also we're lying because I'm using something that is being given to me as a trust for a purpose. And I say, I know what to do with it. I'm not asking what it is, what it was given for. Remember the two travelers, and there were some metaphors in the beginning about how the difference between human being and animals is for a reason. And if we never question it, that's our bad. So we just have to take responsibility for the consequences of our choices. Even if we think we're not making choices, we are making choices by default, by remaining unaware, by refusing to pursue things that are calling onto us to ask questions. So he refused to prostrate, and so he was arrogant, and he was one of the disbelievers. And so when we refuse to prostrate before the reality, to accept the reality, that arrogance will take us away from belief. And also he says here at the end, do not follow Satan, because Satan, not only in this passage, but in many passages, actually in the ayat after this, in few ayats after this, he's going to deceive Adam and Eve in paradise. So when we refuse to become aware of our higher potential and the connection with our Rabb, we are following by default the path of Satan, anything that takes us away from the path. So here he says, although, because for sure you are as though nothing. It's true that we are nothing with respect to your ego and form. But from the point of view of duty, from the point of view of rank, of potential, you are an observant spectator of this majestic universe. We have this awareness. We can glorify with the whole creation. We can appreciate beauty and perfection everywhere. You are an eloquent, articulate tongue of this being, so full of wisdom. We can recognize wisdom. We've been given this potential. You are a discerning reader of this book of the universe. You are a supervisor of these creatures, full of wonder at their glorification. We can understand, potentially, their tasbihat and participate with them. And like a foreman of these beings, full of respect for their worship. So there is a part of us that is the physical being, the animal soul. You are like a deaf particle, a contemptible atom, a needy creature, a weak animal. You are nothing, but there is another part of you that is so extraordinary. Being perfect.
Yamina, we had a question. I believe Sana had raised her hand.
Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Yamina. So I had a question earlier during the session, but I was waiting, maybe it would get answered, and a part of it did get answered. So my question was, when we are in the state of Shahada and we are witnessing things being granted, sometimes things are withheld. So how does a moment respond or witness when you feel that things are being withheld? So when I waited, I did not ask this question earlier during the session. Your discussing this whole scenario of how Satan responded when Hazrat Adam was created and everybody was asked to bow to him. At that time, he felt that something was being withheld from him and being given to Hazrat Adam alayhi salam. So we are told how not to witness. Don't witness things being withheld from you like Satan witnessed something that he felt was being withheld. So I somehow got a bit of an answer to that question by just listening and not asking it as soon as the question appeared in my mind. So do you think that's the right track of understanding that I'm taking, that why would Allah tell us that this is what Satan did when he felt that, he was more worthy of having that rank that was being conferred upon us, Adam? And so inside he must have felt like, this is being withheld from me. So the whole point, basically that scenario makes more sense to me now, that in life now, when I feel that some things are being withheld from me, but I see others enjoying those things, I still have the choice of not to respond like Satan did and say, oh, but I deserve this as well, or I deserved what the other person got. So witnessing is not just for things being granted, but for things which look as if they are being withheld.
But
so that was my question.
Can we call that witnessing? Witnessing is experiencing a reality, but something that I believe is withheld is all in my imagination. It's not reality.
Yeah, that's actually what my question.
How can it even be witnessed? It's just waking up to the reality that this is not reality. This is just my wishful thinking, and making astaghfirullah, I'm just making up things. I'm saying it should be like this. For instance, take when Satan said, I am better. Why? His justification was, because you created me from fire, you created him from clay. So he acknowledges that both of them are created. So if someone has a little bit of, how do you say, let's say wisdom or humility, then if both of those are created, then the one who gets to decide who is better, if there is one that is better, is the creator, not me. But there he's being unreasonable. And that justification has nothing to do with why he is feeling that way. I'll ask you a question. If Satan had been created from clay and Adam from fire, would Satan then just surrender and say, okay, I accept?
No, I don't think so. It's a different mindset.
What would he say? He would say,
I'm better.
Clay is better. Clay is better. Clay and fire is just an excuse. He has already decided that he is better. That's called arrogance. Why? Because it's not based on any reality. Or both are created. So he's deciding on what? Free will. This is called free will. We are given this free will. We can accept reality, or we can deny it and just make up something. We can make up anything. Like, we can't witness what is being withheld, because is it being withheld? Even this is a lie. I decided that I want that as well. But maybe it's not the best for me. So I am imagining, it feels to me it's being withheld because I've already made my mind up that I need that thing. But I am sure, is it true? I don't know. I can't be sure. So it's being withheld is already assuming that my thought is already correct. So there is nothing to witness.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Alhamdulillah.
But
So basically,
if we focus on witnessing what is and witnessing what is given rather than what I think should be given, that the witnessing is about that. The shahada that we are taught in the Quran is what is already given. So it's not only what is given to me, particularly personally as Yamina, but in order for me to be able to breathe air right now, the whole universe has to exist. For my food, in order to have dinner, that dinner, the whole universe, the whole solar system has to exist, all the seasons, everything has to exist for that food to grow. So the things that we take for granted are much, much more valuable that when we imagine, when we are not in a state, when we start witnessing, we realize that what we have, if we are to be grateful, even if I'm grateful from morning to evening, it's not enough. That's why we just say, بِعَدَدِ مَا خَلَقْ, to the numbers of what you have created, because we are so much indebted. Everything, even each breath is a gift, a blessing. And so we will have less and less time to start thinking that things are being withheld. However, from time to time, we may feel a desire for something, but then we are still, I would say, like, let's not take everything for granted. Is it truly, am I being guided? I'm being inspired in order to seek this, or just me making up? I just envied someone, I just saw it somewhere else, and it's not a true longing, a true desire. Is it coming from inside, or is it coming from outside? We become more and more sensitive and more focused on listening. And so when we are in that state, we are not, we are more open, we are more in a state of surrendering rather than it has to be this.
Sister Evina, sometimes can we say that when we perceive something as being withheld, that also can be used as an opportunity to start to being a witnesser. Then, like, let me see what Allah has planned for me, or what khair is there in it, and then that becomes an opportunity rather than you start feeling that you have been abandoned, or you wanted this and this was not given. So
and maybe a good question to ask when we feel something is being withheld is to ask ourselves, if I had that, what would happen? Like, what need is this thing that I believe is being withheld, that I feel is being withheld? What need would it fulfill in my life? And focus on that need. And so then what Ziba said, either we will witness that those needs are being taken care of in other ways, or that it will be taken care of either in that way or in other ways. So the focus is not on the thing that we think is withheld, but on what the need we think is going to fulfill, because this is the way we are going to open the seemingly horizontal connection between a thing and what we think it's going to fulfill. Because if something truly is taking care of our needs, that's shirki. And the only way to break this illusion of ourselves, this misperception, is by asking, what if I had this thing, what need would be fulfilled? And so now instead of asking for that particular thing, I ask for the need to be fulfilled. And Allah knows, fulfill it through that thing, through another thing, even better, He knows. So we start praying through our needs is much more powerful than asking for things, which is already often shirki because we're attributing power to those things.
So, I mean, the clay part of human being and the ruh that was given, and then the shaitan and the picture. So, can it, like, what I'm hearing with your explanations is that the clay part can be the desires and the needs that we have been given, and the ruh part can be the fulfillment of those needs being taken to the fulfiller, the source, because he's the source of the ruh. And when we start claiming that these needs were met because of my ability or my this and I deserve it, then that's the shaitan not going down to the one who is subjugating it to us through the angels. Like, does it, is it the right understanding?
Yeah, it's one way of seeing it, inshallah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So at the end, he says, to conclude, if you heed Satan and your ego, you will fall. That would be living from the ego, and ego doesn't disappear at once. It's a